4 presents Trial of the Monarch.
This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
And we're at the penultimate episode.
The court will adjourn. Opposite of adjourn. Resume. Commence.
Bunch of stuff in this episode I thought were in later seasons.
Yeah.
Season 1, again, showing itself to be better than I remembered.
I didn't expect the strangers to show up here.
And I totally forgot Mecha Shiva was this early. I was like, Mecha Shiva is definitely a second season thing.
Oh, yeah.
No, Mecha Shiva, pure season 1 gold.
Pure season 1. They found the voice for the boys when they work together and feed off of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and become a Voltron of some kind. Yeah. Good episode of this show.
Like this. A lot going on here. And you can definitely tell that they are ramping up. They're ramping up to this being the show that the Venture Brothers is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are a lot of references and quotable moments and all these things. We're going to get right into it. We are no longer having guests for the season, just a little bit of admin stuff. We will have them back for next season. And next on the docket is, of course, the season finale, then the specials that are associated with season 1, then a wrap-up / look at these season 1 bonus features on the DVD.
Yes.
Before we go into season 2.
So just so you're aware of what's going on, watch on Patreon for a call for responses and stuff like that.
Yeah, please limit those to season 1.
Please do.
That's what we're talking about. If you just have things to say about the Venture Brothers in general that aren't specific to season 1, maybe save them.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to just like blow our load super early.
Yes.
On that.
Yeah.
So, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So this episode, it was written by Doc Hammer, and it was it originally aired on October 23rd of 2004.
And this was written actually after the series or season finale.
Yes.
They wrote the next episode and they're like, well, let's do a prequel to that one.
Yes.
And they consider this to be the real beginning of the show. And you can tell why. This is where everything is looking outside of the episode. Like this suggests a larger world outside of the episode more than anything we've seen so far. And a coherent world with callbacks and call forwards. And a lot of what the show is actually about.
Yes. We get, a lot of backstory here. Like this is where Phantom Limb really comes into the picture, and he becomes kind of a major fixture before he kind of goes away. But like what he brings in is this guild intrigue, right? And kind of explaining a little bit why the Monarch doesn't fit in with that. We get a lot of backstory for Dr. Girlfriend. Who in this episode goes to become Dr. Ex-Girlfriend. But kind of her role in this and kind of the intrigue, maybe she didn't naturally come to the Monarch on her own. Like maybe she was planted here. Like the guild is, it rules everything. Yeah.
Has its finger in many sinister pies. First appearance of Monstroso's lap mentioned. So we
it's
have
huge.
that.
There were like 5 of us.
Yeah. And then they basically take every line from this episode and then call back to it.
Yes.
Like it ends, everything that is kind of a toss away line in this ends up becoming important later. So Monstroso is not like a huge character, but he is a major fixture of like season 6. So he ends up being a big deal.
Yeah.
There's no commentary on this one.
Nope.
Which I was kind of surprised because it's kind of an important episode. But I imagine all the things that they would say in this one, they say in the next one.
Yeah.
And it looks different. Everything, like the faces to me in this episode have like a weird little bit of like John Kay Ren and Stimpiness. Like there's a little bit more detail and cartoon exaggeration.
There's a specific facial expression that Dr. Orpheus gives that is extremely John Kay. That is like straight up like the lips pursed out and the eyes bugged open kind of thing. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
And they like it. The creators, I I like it a little bit more when they dial that back a little bit.
Yes, when
I
they
want to see fewer teeth.
Yeah, I want to see fewer teeth. I like it when it's just like a little bit, little bit sleeker. But like one of the reasons for the big change is that eventually, as they sent the early episodes away to Korea, not knowing what would come back, and they saw what came back, and by this point they were able to really calibrate. Like, okay, here's kind of the input that we have to give them in order to get the output that we want. Working across this, kind of big time and geography barrier, And so like by this point they've established the production pipeline, right?
Yeah. And I'm, good for them. Like it eventually will lead to things, that, I end up really liking how they look, but this is still kind of transitional to me. This is also, so this is a Doc Hammer episode, as we mentioned. And I love this episode. It's confusing. Like he does the confusing, ambitious episodes. And I was like, I was looking through the book and seeing who wrote what, because I'd never really paid attention before, and was thinking like, is Doc Hammer what I really love about this show? And then found out that Jackson Public wrote The Doctor is Sin, which is my favorite episode of the show.
Yes.
So luckily it is just that alchemy. It's not. But Doc Hammer, if it's confusing, I watched this with my girlfriend, and she had watched a couple episodes of this with me, and she was just like, oh, I think I missed something.
Yeah.
In the cold open. And I was like, nope.
Yeah.
This is a cold open. You did not. This is just how the show is going to open. And the opening to this is one of my favorite openings in the series. Easy.
Yeah. Well, we're starting like with unreliable narrator stuff. The actual events that we don't learn what they're actually doing until it's revealed that this is just pure fiction, right? But like it is an establishing moment that establishes nothing aside from the fact that, these kids are idiots.
Yeah. Which is worth establishing.
Yes.
It starts off, we're in this Indiana Jones pastiche. Hank is dressed up as Indiana Jones, and Dean is dressed up as Magnum PI, complete with a mustache. And they're opening up this treasure chest, and it turns out it's full of, it's the rainy day craft box of Oli Janima, full of a little man made of pipe cleaners and puff paint.
Yeah.
And everything.
Old thread spindles. Hank is most excited about the googly eyes.
Yeah, a whole bag full of googly eyes. Dean picks up a tablet. He's like, it's in Sanskrit, a dialect I don't recognize, but I can give it a shot, which is just very funny.
Yeah. It's like he starts reading it, and he's talking about like, oh, that's when he describes this is the rainy day craft box, and like, oh, this is cursed. And as he's doing this, a statue comes to life and tries to kill them. In comes Brock. He's dressed up like Michael Knight from Knight Rider. He has helper
with a really cool helper.
Yeah.
Cool robot helper, like who's like kind of like lost in space, like has claws for hands.
But he comes in and knocks the statue's arm off and starts hitting him in the crotch with his own arm, like saying, "Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?" Brock doesn't act like this.
It's so incredible. Like it just like the voice, doing the you have done the curse. Just being like, what? I'm sorry. Stop. It's very funny.
Yep.
And then the Monarch shows up, and he's like a badass version of him who has like eye freeze.
Yeah.
Ways, and says like, why are you wasting your time castrating a priceless antique? Which is again just that language thing.
Yeah,
castrating a priceless antique.
And then just a kid's idea of the most evil thing you could do, like, I have been systematically feeding babies to puppies.
Yeah. So he uses his ice beams to freeze Brock, and the boys are like, okay, it's time for Mecha Shiva. And they do this little anime opening that's like Voltron, where it's this four-armed monster. And the Monarch interrupts to show the boy Dean sitting on Hank's shoulders being Mecha Shiva.
Yeah, and they're just waving their arms going, Mecha Shiva, Mecha Shiva.
It's a very specific Mecha Shiva. Mecha Shiva. Like it's this very that motion when they're doing with their arms is an in joke in my game group. Because my friend Courtney, who used to be part of the game group, we were in a role-playing situation, and characters were like, okay, if we get into trouble, like, let's say something. And they were like, well, we need to be quiet. And she's like, we'll do a hand signal. And she did the Mecha Shiva.
Yay.
So that is the universal sign at my tabletop table for like, if you need to signal somebody you're in trouble. It's like,
just do the wavy arms.
Yeah. Mecha Shiva.
Mecha Shiva.
And these like great little, like, I love Monarch interrupting. It's like, I didn't say anything when Dean said he could read Sanskrit, but they're obviously
like, this is obviously a lie. Like, I could have stopped. Well, like Mecha Shiva, it's way too much. But this, like, this is the boys giving testimony at the trial of the Monarch. The Monarch is representing himself. That's why he's the person who does the objection. But there has been something in the past. We're not going to find out what this is until the very end here. We're kind of left. We're left guessing what's going on.
It's confusing. Like, this is a thing where, like, apparently online when I looked up stuff about this episode, several people like didn't really get it. Right. You know what it was, and it's like you kind of have that Doc Hammer, new to writing stories, but still like hilariously funny and kind of like 10% more ambitious than you might expect, you know, by kind of the way that they reveal information in this episode. Yeah. You know? So we go to Phantom Limb, who kills two bailiffs outside of the courtroom. He's dressed up like a guy from Dark City. So there's a reference to the guys from Dark City. Yep.
I love a thing. So Phantom Limb is voiced by James Urbaniak, doing kind of this like a pan-European sophisticate kind of accent, like British kind of thing. He does something that I love, which is a person with a British accent trying to sound American as he comes up and, you know, gives his cover story or whatever. Like, it's the best moment in Die Hard is Alan Rickman faking an American accent to me.
Yeah. Well, and it's great too, because Alan Rickman's actually British, but James Urbaniak is not. Yes. You know, so he's faking a British accent, faking an American accent. Which is very good.
Yeah, but he kills these guys. You know, Phantom Limb's power. You know, his limbs are not just invisible, but he can supercharge people. Like, he can cause like this corruption to extend up their arms, and it stops their hearts.
Rogue veins.
Right? Yeah, rogue veins. And I love that he orders a cleaner. He's like, or send in a cleaner for 375 pounds. He kicks a guy, maybe more. The idea that you would order a cleaner based on how many pounds they need to get rid of.
Yeah. Well, this is going to make me sound so incredibly dorky, but like most of my notes for this episode were about lore shit like that. Yeah. Like about guild operating procedures and stuff. No, because I was like, that's fucking cool. Yeah. Like, it's just like, oh man.
Yeah. Like, I want to know like what the business is, right? Like, you know, it's kind of like, I've only watched season 1 of Westworld, but like the interesting thing is behind the scenes, not actually up in the park. You know, like, I want to know the logistics of all this guild shit.
It's like when I go to a strip club and I ask about ships and stuff. It's like very similar. Like, I just want to know how it works. I just want to know how it's made, but for pussy.
Oh, and a mommy and a daddy love each other very much.
I love seeing this guild kind of after effect things. There's a great, like, just wall to wall great deliveries in this. The Monarch starts cross-examining Hank, and he's like, you know, Hank, are you telling the truth? He's like, yes, sir. Like, just his, you know, Hank enthusiasm, a good Hank episode. Is accusing him of being a liar. Here, but in the most Monarch way.
Yes,
you know,
with
like
your
so
pants,
much Fonzie,
with your pants so constantly on fire, and like he eventually gets back. Like they go back and forth like Pee Wee and Francis. Like, I'm rubber and you're glue. Like, you know, but
I am rubber and you are so much glue.
Yes, and the judge calls a recess. And we get the two lawyers. The Monarch, who's representing himself, he wants to reprimand the Monarch, but we were introduced to the prosecutor here. Tiny Attorney is the only name we get for him.
Oh my god! Yeah, we don't get that until later. But I am so happy about Tiny Attorney.
The fact that we get a Quato.
Yeah, like, you know, I don't know if people who see the show, like what age group they are, but just the way that this show is just entirely made for me. Total Recall. Real big deal to me growing up. Me and my friend Derek photoshopped a picture of him growing out, like, we greased him up real good and took off his shirt and then photoshopped him coming out of my stomach like Quado. Yay! I don't know where that photo exists, if it's still around. I should text him and see if it's still around. But when he was my roommate, like, we like oiled him up real good and turned him into Quado. Yeah.
I Quadoed my roommate.
I Quadoed my roommate real good. And if you don't know who Quado is, when Quaid goes to check out the Martian resistance, like, Mars is full of mutants because of radiation. Yeah. And he's talking to a guy, and he's just like a regular kind of dude. And he's like, oh, I'm not Quado. And he lifts up his shirt, and there's a tiny little slimy baby psychic slimy baby, and this show presupposes what would happen if slimy baby became a slimy lawyer.
Yeah.
And a Southern lawyer at that.
Yeah, a simple country lawyer.
It's very funny. Like everything with this dude makes me laugh like a lot.
Yeah, but just like there's this big guy walks in. He's mute, and then like we hear the muffled voice like, could you open up? It's getting mighty hot in here. And it opens it up, and then out he comes, and he's wearing he's covered. He's slimy, but also he's wearing his own like little like vest and straw boater.
Yeah, little seersucker.
Yeah, like he's totally like what's his name from Inherit the Wind, like.
Yeah. And he's full of Southern or like Senator Tinkerbell from Mr. Show. Mm-hmm. He's got the same voice where he's like, I'm going to be working harder than a cat trying to bury a toid in a marble floor.
A toid.
That specific toid pronunciation of turd is very Senator Tinkerbell.
But he's wilder than a peach orchard hog.
Like, yeah, it's incredibly fun to watch. Yeah. And he is, we find out here, and this ends up being important, but they don't underline it. Mm-hmm. He is a lawyer who's brought in for supervillains.
Yes.
So that is ultimately why he's here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. During the recess out in the hall, the boys are very disappointed because they're opening up their bag lunch. They've got egg salad sandwiches, objectively terrible sandwiches. They call them fart sandwiches. They hold their breath and go in for the cookies. And then we've got Rusty just eating his messily, and like all the pieces are flying everywhere.
He uses a phone at one point.
Yeah.
Like he holds up to his, like Rusty doesn't do very much in this episode. He just kind of does like little asides because James Urbaniak is doing the voice of the judge as well.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of voices in this.
Yeah.
But, great line where he's like, if I just knew you can call the cops on him, I would have done this years ago. Hello, police, there's a man dressed as a butterfly shooting lasers at my robot. And we get this lore again, like where Brock's like, the police stay out of the guild's business. Unless the Monarch messed with the police, they wouldn't do this. How do you think the police got those new cruisers last year?
Yeah, they're like they're donors. It's like the Penguin. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and just like lore, just saying they're like, man, gotta learn about this.
Yeah. Just please teach me how they how the guild exists with these other power structures, please.
Mm-hmm. Give me an owner's manual, please. This is lots of first in this. We get the first appearance of Watch and Ward.
Yeah.
Who are at Guild HQ.
The two guild dispatch dipshits. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They both kind of talk like this, like they've got like Cobra Commander villain, or soldier voices a little bit. Mm-hmm. But they're in this room and they've got a lot of actual video mixed in with the animation here. See Doc Hammer on the screen, probably just a bunch of footage from around the office, around the Astro base. Mm-hmm. But we get our first glimpse of the Sovereign. And the way that he is portrayed. Who plays the Sovereign? I
don't remember. It's one of the two creators. It's Doc or Jackson. Mm-hmm. This is before the reveal of who the Sovereign ultimately is.
Yes, this is the Sovereign in his the Great and Mighty Oz kind of form.
Yes, very Zordon. Similar to Oz. Yeah. Back in the courtroom. Phantom Limb is sitting next to Dr. Girlfriend, obviously Dr. Girlfriend,
yes,
in a veil, assembling a gun in his bag, when a woman looks over and says, what looks over with concern, and he offers her a Pez from the gun.
She doesn't want it because I don't like things that taste like soap. It tastes
too much like soap. It tastes too much like soap. Again, that very Doc Hammer-esque, so much Fonzie, tastes too much like soap.
That's at the back of the gallery. At the front, we have the Monarch addressing the jury. Another little Easter egg here. The jury is made up of lookalikes of the production staff, which makes it extra funny when the judge is saying you're being tried by a jury of your peers, by these degenerates and reprobates or something like that. Yeah. Calling
very obvious Doc Hammer and Jackson.
And Doc Hammer sticks out. He has heterochromia.
Looks like he's in Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like a normal dude.
Yeah. But he's up there and he calls himself to the stand. And of course, he has trouble sitting down because he's got these wings, and he kind of starts the story roughly at the beginning, where this goes, highlighting the wedge that was dropped between him and Dr. Girlfriend, someone published this tell-all book called The Flight of the Monarch, which he says is full of lies and pictures of also lies.
Yes, which I like that a lot. And he says, he tells, he demands to know who wrote it. And it turns out it's 24, which is wild.
Yeah.
And there are tons of references in this.
Yeah.
Of
it talks about the danceteria.
Yeah, his pictures of danceteria dancing with Steve Baders and Lydia Lunch. I can't remember who Lydia Lunch is. Steve Baders is from the Dead Boys.
Yeah.
And then danceteria is like the big New York nightclub.
It was like a
where
punk
Klaus
golf
Nomi
club.
performed
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah, like this weird performance art place where Klaus Nomi was at quite a bit, who will show up later in the series. And again, like just me being like, fuck man, Ninja Brothers. Yeah. But just incredible, the idea of I love that the Monarch was involved in like the 80s club coke scene.
Because of course he was.
Yeah, like, it's really good. It's very well observed.
Rich kid, ton of money in the New York area. Come on, yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah. But Monarch is confronting the entire crew like, oh, it looks like a note. It has words and pictures, or it looks like a book, but it's a suicide note. And he says, there'll be dire consequences unless the author comes in. 24 is panicking, and 21 rightly says, well, of course he was going to notice. You put his picture on the front of it.
Picture on the back. So he frames somebody, apparently. He, trank darts somebody and then pins a note saying, I did it, and puts it into his room. So the Monarch executes him. And there's a great bit here where they don't really show it or anything, but Dr. Girlfriend is just like, honey, you should have really switched his blood for acid after you threw him into the shark tank. The sharks aren't going to touch him now.
They're not going to touch him now.
As he lowers a giant hairdryer into the shark pit with his blood full of acid.
Yeah. It's real big, like this is as angry as somebody can be, or like when Master Shake kills himself to haunt Meatwad's Atari game.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah. But later, Monarch is screaming at Dr. Girlfriend because as he was reading this, Dr. Girlfriend factored in, and all of this new information about Dr. Girlfriend's past relationships come up. So he is, kind of slut shaming her, or even just like being a real possessive.
A huge dick.
He's being just a massive abusive asshole during this, but he's like, oh, you were sitting on Monstroso's lap. You were skinny dipping with Jim Fetus.
Yeah. Who is JG Thirlwell.
Yep.
Reference to that. And then this is, again, first appearance Monstroso's lap, where she's like, you see the size of his lap? There are like 5 of us on there.
And also it was a party, and also it's none of your business.
Yeah. Like she's totally right. Like the Monarch is a huge dick in this. It's not like, oh, this character who I thought was super cool and good.
No.
Is actually a misogynist jerk. Like, no, he's the fucking Monarch.
He's just petty. He's going to be. Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to be a petty dick about everything. Like, yeah. You're not about to cancel the Monarch over this. But he's very upset that she used to work with Phantom Limb, and there's a whole spread of her in her Queen of Theory outfit.
Yeah.
Which isn't named just yet.
Right. But he asks, who designed your costume? Frank Frazetta?
Yeah.
Yep. And there's the reference to Carrie here. He's like, I can see your dirty pillows. It's a very revealing costume there. He's just like, okay. And he's just outraged, and he calls her a whore and sends her sobbing out of the cocoon. Yeah.
Shitty. So we go back to the courtroom where Dr. Girlfriend is now giving custody. She pulls herself as a surprise witness.
And of course, Rusty's like, ooh, I'm so surprised. It was just very obvious that was her.
He's over it.
Yeah.
She goes up to testify, says the Monarch was lying, and tells the story about how after she's kicked out, and she's Dr. Ex-Girlfriend now, according to the Monarch, goes to Phantom Limb's house, and very well observed, getting kicked out of a house and just crying in the rain. And this is also the first mention of her previous Lady Au Pair.
Yeah.
With her murderous moppets, who will become characters.
Major characters.
Yeah, who end up in the Pete White and Billy Quizboy thing of the network saying use them less, and Doc and Jackson be like, no,
we're
going to use them more. Every time you tell us not to use the moppets, we're going to use the moppets.
Yeah, so you should know this now.
Yeah. Don't tell us not to do stuff.
Yeah.
I love how fucking slimy Phantom Limb is.
Oh, just he is
doing all
immediately
of this.
jumping on this emotionally vulnerable woman. Like,
Yeah, it's so gross. Just, him is like, I got your old costume. And the Queen Etheria outfit is incredibly revealing, as we mentioned.
yeah.
It's basically being nude.
Yeah. And she asks like, oh, what are these little like crusty bits? And he says, oh, it was my tears. And Monarch objects like, oh, clearly, I bet he was cranking his invisible. And I love what Rusty does. Like, he objects like, yeah, I've got children here. Judge tells him, hey, you need to take your kids out. Rusty, he doesn't want his kids to hear about Phantom Limbs come on the disguise, outfit. but he doesn't want to leave while the good part's happening, so he sends Brock out with the kids.
Yeah, go take care of it, Brock. And Brock stands up. This is one of the scenes where I think it's a little bit over animated. And Brock stands up and kind of like talks to him like, "Hey kids, let's find a little mystery here." This is so I ended up, since I watched this, wanted to watch this with my girlfriend. We watched it on Hulu on the TV as opposed to watching it on the DVD copy. And I just want to point out that I got a 60-minute ad for an iPhone game.
Oh my God,
60,
really?
60 second, not 60 minute.
Oof.
Like a whole minute though.
Yeah.
For this thing called Toon Blast. And it was like a shitty over the hedge DreamWorks thing. And it went on forever.
Oh, that's horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just like, what is this? It's like the kind of thing they would show before like a sub Pixar kind of thing, like a shitty Pixar. It's like a short, like a DreamWorks short. It was really bad.
No, I would have believed you if you said 60 minutes. Have you run into those like hour-long plus YouTube ads where it's just like, oh, here's an industrial video, like it's basically an infomercial. We're just hoping that you don't skip this. Yeah,
really, we're hoping you walked away from the computer.
Yes. Yeah.
So stupid.
Yeah, it'd be nice if a company didn't let that happen on their platform, but fuck, man, that would require hiring people. Yeah. What are you going to do? Hire people to run the platform? Shit.
Yeah. Shit. That would cut into profits.
Yeah.
When Brock says to get up, and be like, well, Dean told me about him pounding his meat.
And Brock doesn't want to hear about that. They go out and they start investing the mystery of the gum and the drinking fountain.
Yeah, very cute. We have a clue. It seems our thirsty chewer was a fan of gum or something like that. Like our thirsty chewer.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah. But as they leave, Phantom Limb calls and says, hey, delay the operation, saying to watch and ward, because, they're coordinating this whole big thing, saying we've lost full containment. Like, we need everybody in the room for this to go off.
And this is a red herring where we're meant to think that they're going to strike at the Venture Brothers. Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm. Tiny Attorney goes to cross-examine Dr. Ex-Girlfriend, and she's about ready to pull out the what appears to be this zip gun, whatever it was that Phantom Limb was putting together. Phantom Limb signals like, hey, don't shoot, does the cross sign, and she goes and continues telling the story, saying, hey, I'm back in the flashback here. The Monarch showed up drunk and verbally abusive, like coming in and just basically saying like, oh, are you wearing your old costume? And talking about the times they saw her, like, it's not great. But I
love the little hints here that Phantom Limb is like out of his league as like a Eurotrash dude.
Yeah,
where he's eating cheese. He's like, that's a playful little cheese called Asiago that I discovered when I was, but it makes I found it's a common table cheese, but works fine with a table Merlot or something like that.
It is the yin to Merlot's playful yang or something like
yang.
that.
Yeah. Just something really
fucking asshole. Stop it.
Yeah. well, and also just like, it's just Asiago cheese.
Yeah.
It's not like you get that on a Subway.
Yeah.
It's not a fancy cheese. They bake it into Subway bread.
It's baked onto the bread, dude.
Yeah. Like any cheese you can get at Subway is not a fancy cheese.
Yeah. And any cheese that is brought into a Subway, it becomes less fancy.
Yeah, like if you have pocket cheese, it degrades 2 letter grades. S rank to B rank.
Yeah. But Monarch, after she kicks him out, rightfully so, he hangs around and someone calls the cops. Saying like, hey, there's a domestic here. Dr. Ex-Girlfriend inside, saying like, hey, I heard sirens, I saw the lights, but then everything stopped. I don't know what happened after that.
Yeah. Out in the hallway where they're investigating the thirsty chewer, Dr. Orpheus emerges from the bathroom telling, they were booby trapping the door, putting a hair on it, one of those little spy things that kids learn.
Yeah.
Like it was Dr. O the whole time. What does it mean? He tells them not to go in there because he had Taco Bell for lunch.
But it was delivered like the Monarch.
Yeah, I delivered with all the music and stuff. And Brock's like, the thing it means, boys, is Dr. O had to take a dump. He's being brought in as an expert witness.
Right.
And he kind of comes in as like a new atheist kind of guy. Like they have him swear on the Bible and he's like,
Yes.
that quaint little book of fiction. And brings in his own book, which is a hungry little bitey Necronomicon.
Keep your hands away from the mouth. He's a nibbler.
He's a nibbler. Yeah.
I just love that he has an animated Necronomicon. And Tiny Lawyer is immediately like skeptical of this. He's like, just a little bit of hocus pocus. Yeah. Like he finds it convenient that nobody can remember what happened after the cops arrived. And that's kind of the whole of the case. We're going to find out. Brock is looking in and he's talking to the boys because it's obvious something's going on. Like the bailiffs are slowly being replaced with guild strangers, one of whom has like this weird like metal pipe for a face.
Yes. Yeah, it's very obvious.
Yeah.
And this is again another legendary exchange from this show.
I mean, it's my favorite.
I thought this came later.
It's one of my favorite things because it is it is entirely a good description of Hank's whole deal. But also like a very good, like, Brock doesn't quite understand what's going on with these kids. He's just here to keep them safe, But like, Brock is, telling the kids like, hey, your dad's safe. The guild works professionally. They're clean. Whatever they're here for, it has nothing to do with him. And he'll be fine. And Brock says, in a way, they're the only organization that I still respect,
Yeah. And Hank pipes in and the enthusiasm, and they kill clean. Don't let dames get in the way. Just like plus oneing, like just yes-anding Brock with extreme prejudice.
Yeah.
And then, instead of just letting him get away with it, which is what you would expect, like they draw a line under it.
Yeah.
And
Brock's
I love that line. Yeah.
Honestly, Hank, where'd you pick this stuff up? I never see you read.
Like, I never see you read. Like, where do you get this? And then Dean, like, being like, yeah, I know, right? Like, it's so good.
It's like he channels dead crazy people.
Yeah, God, I love it so much.
And then Hank, instead of being like, come on, guys, stop razzing me, he says, do you think it's a cry for help?
Yeah, very good. That kind of like, I've never seen you read.
Yeah.
There's a certain kind of joke that will draw attention to a practical concern.
Yes.
In a fantastic situation that I am always a huge sucker for.
Yeah.
The two examples I always go to is one, I was talking to Brayton at one point, and we were talking about Ghostbusters 2, as you do, and the ooze coming out and bringing Sigourney Weaver's toilet or bathtub to life.
Yeah.
And somehow we were just kind of joking and it got on the idea of that happening to Brayton. And Brayton's first response was, what do I feed you? Like him just being like, oh, I have to take care of it.
Yeah, like it's alive now. It's alive and on my property.
Yeah, the child services is going to take.
No, I don't want to be taken away by TPS, Tub Protective Services.
That's really, really good. And then Mr. Show, which they have the sketch Jeepers Creepers semi-star.
I literally,
really good.
I literally just watched that last night.
It's so good.
Not for the first time, but like I get it stuck in my head, and somebody on a podcast I listened to saying a couple of bars of Jesus Christ Superstar. I was like, well, fuck, I guess I'm gonna watch this. No,
watch
I was on the 18th hole.
And the Pontius Pilate part of that where they're talking about how he's lazy and stuff, and the last line is Bob Odenkirk being, where does he get his money from? It's driving us mad. It's like such a weird little detail.
Yeah,
like if you have a shitty son and like he still gets money, but we know he doesn't have a job. I really love that.
Yeah,
so much.
I just like, Hank, like he never, like we never see him consuming anything. Like Dean's the reader, or he's got the giant boy detective stuff. Like he is very clearly like inspired by the things that he takes in. Dean never consumes anything, but he's like falling into these genre tropes and like, saying stuff that implies a broader savviness than he could possibly have from his like from his sheltered upbringing. Like
it's really good.
Yeah.
It's I love Hank so much.
It's so good. Yeah.
Yeah, fucking Hank. So Tiny Attorney asked Dr. O to read the Monarch's mind. The Monarch objects. And the judge is like, that is strange. And he goes, well, I myself am growing from the torso of an inbred simpleton. Just like pointing out that like there's no unusual.
Yeah, like just like something being unorthodox is not a reason not to do it. Just look around, right?
Yeah. So Dr. Orpheus goes into his memory and sees what happens, where the Monarch is pissing outside and just like, just doing some gardening, officer. This is really good, like this little bit here with the cop, where he's like, look, Poncherello, we're going to take your Tom of Finland ass and get out of here.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Or like he calls him Poncherello, the Ponch, Eric Estrada's character from Chips, but he also calls him Fonzie because he's riding the bike.
Yeah, Fonzie and Tom of Finland. He's a chimera.
Yeah.
These things.
Just using every like dismissive nickname that he can find for him in his drunken fury, petty drunken anger, let's say, that Monarch has. And like it looks like it's going to escalate to a fight when he's darted by a dart that is not his own. Like it's a special guild design. You can see that, it's not anybody associated with him. And this guild stranger, this operative, comes up and hands the cop money. And hands over the papers for his new life, saying like, "Oh, we got you a new wife, and if we see you in a crowd, if we hear you, you're dead." And the cop's like, "No, it's fine. He's being paid off. Like, he
has to disappear.
Yeah,
because they're going to pin it on the Monarch. That's what the trial of the Monarch is that he killed or disintegrated this cop.
Yes.
So Dr. Orpheus is about to say what happens. He comes back. He's like, I've seen the greasy mind of this man. And Phantom Limb is like, we have to do it now. Before they reveal the truth, send in a freeze team. Again, lore. There's things called freeze teams.
Yep.
These strangers come in dressed like the Dark City people and freeze everyone solid.
Yep.
Dr. Girlfriend and the Phantom Limb didn't have guns. They have these rebreathers that they put on so they don't get frozen. There's a part where Brock is in the bathroom. He's takes the kids into the bathroom and is like, put your head on the ground and hold your breath. Dean's like, there's pee-pee on the ground. Hold your breath.
Yeah. Brock is protecting him. Like, okay, like we would have been frozen there, but like, it's fine that the containment was breached. Based on the way this works out, mostly because of Brock's respect for the guild, actually. At this point. They come in, and instead of taking the Monarch, instead of taking Dr. Venture, what the guild strangers do is they take Tiny Attorney. Phantom Limb, is kind of monologuing about this, saying, "Oh, we finally have the guild's number 3 most wanted." This attorney has been a real thorn in our side, and he orders a memory wipe for everybody in the room.
Yeah, and the weird little bit of lore. They're like, well, what about the necromancer? Memory wipes don't work on them. And he goes, well, they do take to hypnotic suggestion, like a cancer takes to a prostate. And they go up and tell him, to say that the Monarch did it.
Yeah,
the Monarch is guilty.
And like building future Orpheus plot lines in. Say, oh, he's been applying for an arch from the guild for at least 5 times now. Like, just promise him that'll have a new arch villain or whatever. And so they give the suggestion, and what they tell him to say is, the Monarch did it. Dr. Ex-Girlfriend objects to this, like, oh, you never said that. Like, I didn't want to sell him out like that, but
she's a Matahari.
Yes,
you were the spy that did this.
Yeah.
So she wasn't attempting to, and then she does a hypnotic suggestion on the Monarch, saying like she had nothing to do with this, and she kind of searches for someone to blame it on and ends up blaming it on the boys.
Yes.
This ends up obviously paying off next episode. I think it's weird that she would choose the boys, and not just like Dr. Venture, who he already hates.
Yep.
This does not feel in line with her characterization of like not being so pure evil.
Yes. And also, like, she has been established as, like, caring about the boys, you know? Yeah.
This is weird. It's like this wouldn't happen later. It has to happen for the plot to happen, but it's a weird moment. Yeah.
But they unfreeze. The Brock and the boys come in right before they unfreeze. So, it doesn't appear that anything's out of place. And Dr. Orpheus declares both that the Monarch is guilty and says that he hopes that he gets a girl villain, maybe a redhead.
Yeah, very cute. He does end up getting a redhead, but not a girl villain. With Torrid, whose head is on fire.
Yeah.
So the Monarch is guilty, going to jail. We get to credits. And in the post-credit scene, Dr. Girlfriend has visited the Monarch in prison, where he's kind of talking sugar to her, and it pans around to be a 21 being forced to dress up like Dr. Girlfriend.
Yes, Dr. Girlfriend's long gone, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is a good little cliffhanger, bring us into the season finale.
I love it. It's good.
Yeah, super, super good.
Yep.
I like how referencey this is. How reference heavy it is. I really enjoy, a lot of the lines from this. This is very quotable.
Yeah.
And the same way like the Ghost of Saragosso or Tag Sale is.
Yeah.
Really, really good episode.
It's a good, we just throughout this season, we've said like, oh, this is a good lore episode or this is a good joke episode. This is like the nice Goldilocks in between, right? And, we said at the beginning, but this is hinting at the show that it's ultimately going to be. I talked about like in, what was it? The testicular torsion one?
Are you there, God? Is he deep?
Yeah, we talked about like that, like talking about like the bylaws and stuff, any of the guild logistics and minutia and like just the stuff that gets in the way. I am such a sucker for it.
Me too.
And I'm a sucker for this.
Yeah, it's also a good example of the wiki being frustrating to me.
Oh yeah,
because fandom.wiki gets a lot of things just straight up wrong, kind of consistently, and they think that the strangers. The guild are a reference to the Bowie song "Oh You Pretty Things," which does mention the phrase "strangers," but a lot of things mention the phrase "strangers."
Yeah,
and I don't think that's what those are.
I
think that they're from Dark City because they're dressed like they're in Dark City.
Yeah, it can be a straight line. It doesn't have to be as much of a reach as it is. Yeah,
yeah. And because it's a wiki, both things are on there.
Yes,
like the strangers are a reference to Dark City / the strangers are a reference to "Oh You Pretty Things," and it's like no,
yeah,
you just came up with something.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, well.
Shit.
But yeah, I'm excited about the next episode. I'm excited about getting into season 2. I'm generally optimistic. I like the show.
Me too. This is a little fun little bright spot on the network. Where like yesterday was like a nice network day where I watched Rampage, we did for Adaptation Decay this month.
Yeah, and
then reread some comics for Days of Future Cast. I'm recording tomorrow.
Nice.
And we're doing the Ecstatics run, which is really good.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like the weird positive time.
Yeah,
on Duckfeed right now. Will it last? Well,
probably not.
GTA Vice City on WAF coming up. That's a rough putt.
Yeah, but also the playing is behind us, so
that's true. Yeah. So it'll still be fun to talk about.
Yeah, and also like our job is fun and good. So
yeah, no, absolutely, no complaining. It's just fun to be. I think that we specifically me, but both of us kind of have a curmudgeonly reputation sometimes.
Yeah,
and it's nice to have like a weekly appointment to talk sugar about something.
Agreed. Nice. So, if you are listening to this, thank you. If you have supported us on Patreon, thank you. If you would like to go to duckfeed.tv/Patreon and give as little as $3 a month, you get access to this episode or to episodes of this show a week early. At $5 a month, you get a whole bunch of extra content of other shows and things like that. It's a good deal, we think.
Yeah, we would really appreciate it if you did that. Everyone who has, I really appreciate it. We know that it is New Year. There are a lot of worries going on, and just the fact that people are still willing to kick in a few bucks a month to let us keep doing this is hugely meaningful.
Yes.
So that is awesome. And until next time,
go Team Venture.